Once upon a time, in a prosperous kingdom, there lived a wise and fair king who was loved by his people. The king's court was filled with learned men and skilled advisors. But none were as clever as his minister. He was famous throughout the kingdom for his sharp wit and quick solutions to difficult problems. A courtier named John was at the king's court. He was respected and liked. But not all his views were very sensible. Sometimes he said things that were quite foolish. One day, John spoke up in court.
Your Majesty, I believe that rich people are more honest than poor people. They have everything they need, so they don't steal. It's the poor who commit crimes, because they need money.
The minister raised an eyebrow and said,
John, I don't agree. Just because someone is rich doesn't mean they are honest. Some rich people cheat and lie.
John replied,
That's not true. The poor are always looking for ways to get money. They are more likely to steal, because they are desperate.
The king listened carefully and said,
But John, don't you think it's unfair to judge people just by their wealth? Some poor people are very honest, while some rich people can be dishonest.
The minister nodded and added,
Exactly. Your Majesty. We should not judge someone by how much money they have. It's their actions that matter.
John frowned and said,
I still think the rich are better. They have a lot to lose, so they are more careful.
The king raised his hand and replied,
It's important to remember that honesty comes from the heart, not from the wallet.
After the discussion in court, the minister walked home, feeling hungry after a long day. As he entered his house, he was greeted by the delicious smell of food.
Ah, it smells wonderful,
he said, rubbing his stomach. His wife smiled and replied, I made your favorite dish today, spicy vegetable curry, fluffy rice, and warm bread. And for dessert, there's delicious mango pudding. The minister's eyes lit up.
I can't wait to eat.
He sat at the table, eagerly looking at the colorful dishes before him. As he took a bite of the curry, he said,
This is amazing. Just what I needed after a day of debate in court.
That night, as the minister lay in bed, he couldn't stop thinking about John's remarks about rich and poor people. He rolled over, staring at the ceiling.
Why does John think that way?
He murmured.
Just because someone is poor doesn't mean they are dishonest. There must be a way to show this.
He whispered to himself.
Maybe I can find a way to show everyone that character matters more than wealth.
Suddenly, an idea sparked in his mind. He smiled to himself.
Yes. I will show them that honesty is not about wealth but about the heart.
With a smile on his face, he closed his eyes. He was ready to put his plan into action the next day. The minister requested the king to give him 2 pouches, containing 50 gold coins each. The king was always ready to help the minister, because he knew that the minister was not dishonest. And there was a sound reason for whatever he did. So he gave him the 2 pouches of gold coins. There was a forest close by through which travelers had to pass to reach the city. The next evening, the minister dropped a pouch on the path and hid behind a tree to see what happened. After a while, a rich merchant came along the path. He saw the pouch and picked it up. Quickly, he looked around, and, seeing that he was alone, he slipped it into his bag. Then he went along on his way back home. The evening after that, the minister put the second pouch on the path, and again waited to see what happened. This time, he saw a woodcutter returning home. He carried a small bundle of wood on his head. Suddenly, the man stumbled on the pouch and dropped his bundle. Stooping, he picked his bundle up and saw the pouch. He picked it up and opened it. He looked around and called out,
"Hello? Is anyone here? Whose is this money pouch?"
But there was no reply. So, the woodcutter hurried to the treasury, holding the pouch tightly in his hands. As he entered, the treasury officer looked at him and asked,
Good day, sir. What brings you here?
"Hello. I found this pouch on the path while I was returning home from the forest."
The woodcutter replied, his voice steady.
"It had money in it, and I want to return it to its owner."
The officer took the pouch and said,
Thank you for your honesty. I will make sure it is kept safe and returned to whoever lost it.
The woodcutter nodded and went home. The minister told the king all about it. The 2 men were summoned to the king's court for questioning them.
"There was no one around, Your Majesty. So I took the money and invested it in my business, so that it might increase."
The merchant replied.
And what about you, my good man?
The king asked the poor woodcutter.
Your Majesty, I did not see anyone there either. But the money was not mine, so I deposited it in the treasury, so that it might be returned to the one who lost it.
John recognized the wisdom of the minister's action. The rich were not always honest, nor the poor always dishonest. Moral: honesty is defined by a person's character, not by their wealth.